When you can make a difference in someone's life, what an amazing feeling, right? And even better when they come back and tell you that what you did, what you said, how you supported someone made a big difference. Executive coaching is a little bit different from other kinds of coaching. Executive coaching, you've got to think in a systems way, meaning the executive is one person, but you can't just be thinking about that individual. They are part of a larger system, right? So they have a team. They may have an executive team or a leadership team. They may have a board that they're reporting to. They have peers, direct reports.
Mindfulness, which is a technique which is used to kind of get your mind into the present moment. So if you have like one or two techniques or things that you can share with the viewers today.
Okay. So I have a framework that I work with. I call it EAR, EER, express, experiment, and recognize.
Courage. I believe courage is very important. It's one of the most essential ingredients, whether you are in a corporate job or wherever you are in life. You need to have the courage to speak up for yourself, because layoff is such a high pressure situation, right? And there's so many emotions that suddenly come flooding in and you don't know what to do because everything is like so uncertain. Is there anything that people can do during this time to kind of calm themselves and focus?
Yeah. Biggest thing that people don't do when they are looking for a new job is
the hardest transitions are not just about changing the jobs, but it is often about choosing courage over comfort. My guest today, Anita Kishore, walked away from a career in science and consulting and followed her true calling and passion and joined the world of executive coaching. From starting her own practice in the US to working with clients across different geographies, her journey is a reminder that it's never too late to make a career transition. The bravest step that you can take is towards the life that you truly want for yourself. If you have ever dreamt about making a career transition or about starting something on your own or just taking your passion globally, then this conversation is for you.
Hi everyone. So let's welcome Anita on our show today. Hi Anita. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Neha. Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. Excited.
Thank you. We're really excited to hear more and learn about your journey so far. So let's get started. If you could give a very quick self-introduction to all our viewers today.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks for inviting me. My name is Anita Kishore. I'm an executive coach for analytically minded leaders. These are the overthinkers, the people who have analysis paralysis. And I'm based in New York City. I'm Indian American, born and brought up in the US. My parents are from South India. I like to go back to India, visit my cousin and my family. And I live in Jackson Heights, which is once was a strong Desi neighborhood. It is now very, very mixed. It's considered the most diverse neighborhood in the world. And I am thrilled to be here having this conversation about career pivots.
Amazing. Thanks so much. And welcome again. So let's get started. So for those who don't know what executive coaching is, so before we talk more about the career pivot that you made, could you give everybody like a brief overview of the role that you are into currently? So what do you do right now?
Yeah, it's a great question because a lot of people say, what is this executive coaching thing? I know a sports coach, a cricket coach, a basketball coach. Is it the same thing? And, in sports, a coach is someone who probably tells you what to do. They might record your performance and they say, do this a little better. So they give you a lot of feedback, they tweak and they optimize. In business, you might find some coaches who might help you, let's say, start a business. But what I do with executives is help them become better leaders. So my job is not to give a lot of advice, but my job is to ask tough questions, particularly for leaders who are at the top of their game. They may be CEOs, they may be in the C-suite, and they don't get a lot of people who are asking them tough questions. It can be lonely at the top. So the role of the executive coach is to support, but also challenge, to ask tough questions and be there for your client to help them think through the answers, to help them achieve greater levels of performance than they ever thought possible.
Great. That's a very brief and a very good summary that I understand, from what you've just provided. And obviously, we'll talk more about some of the case studies or transformations that you have made, which have really helped your clients in their journey. Talking about career transitions first. So you were into science like global pharma consulting, right? And you made the switch into executive coaching. And that's something which is not that common. So talk to us about that. What was that trigger for you? What inspired you to make that switch?
Yeah, I say that I went into science because I like the people. And nobody really believes me, but it's
Mm.
true. I am genuinely a people person, but I didn't always know how to show or express that because I really liked science. So here's the thing. My parents are physicians. My grandparents are physicians. I thought maybe I would follow in the family footsteps. When I grew up, doing math problem sets was kind of the fun thing to do when I came home at the end of the day. And I didn't know about a lot of other professions, like many people in various business careers. So I followed this path of being a pre-med. And then I get to an Ivy League university, and I remember that there were some of the fellow pre-meds maybe cheating on a problem set, and they just didn't sit well with me. I said, that's not who I am. But I really liked the graduate students and the professors who were in
Yeah.
chemistry. So then I said, well, what do I have in common with these graduate students and professors? And I said, well, they're smart, they're laid back, they're helpful, and they're honest. And I said, well, those are my values too. So went into science for the people because
Yeah.
of those shared values. But along the way, I realized, oh, maybe I like the people doing the science more than the science itself. And so, bachelor's, master's, PhD later, maybe it's a little bit late in my journey, but I said, well, maybe there's something else that I can do. It still took a while to connect all the dots. I went into had a career, I had careers in business, in global management consulting, in pharmaceuticals, global health. But again, the thing that all of those careers had in common was great people who were doing the thing, and I wanted to understand what motivated them to
Yeah.
do that thing. So I just kept following the people, and there may have been some unfortunate work situations that we can talk about later, like some layoffs or something like that, that may have spurred a transition in a different direction. But yeah, it was really liking the people who are doing the thing and seeing where that would go.
Amazing. I mean, your story is a perfect example of the thing that it's never too late, right? You can always follow your heart. You should always try to identify and try to follow your purpose, and it's a great motivation to me as well. So talking about this transition. So when you just started um, building this practice, what were some of the steps that you took to kind of get into the space and get your initial set of clients? How was that like for you?
I started as a career coach, and that happened almost by accident. I had just moved to New York City. A chance meeting at a dinner party led to this amazing conversation, and I felt very comfortable talking to this person. And he said, well, what do you like to do for fun, Anita? You're really going to see what a nerd I am here. I said, I like to coach PhD students on how to get jobs in consulting pro bono. Very nerdy. And he said, oh, would you like to get paid for that? I said, what do you mean? So he was actually building a career coaching practice in an organization where
Yeah.
people had industry specialties. So my specialty was consulting and healthcare, and he was actually looking for someone with that exact skill set. So he said, why don't you join us? I was still working at the time. I was working at Pfizer. I was the senior director of strategy and innovation. I had a big job, a lot of travel with that job, but this was something that I could do part-time, nights and weekends, and it felt again aligned to my values. So
Yeah.
I got to work with underrepresented minority MBA students at the top business schools across the US. And that started me into career coaching. Fast forward a few years later, I'm a lifelong learner. I get bored easily as well. And I found that career coaching was this sort of narrowly defined space.
Yeah.
And I wanted to keep growing and keep learning. And that's when I learned about executive coaching, where the set of problems or challenges that executives face is just a little bit different than just the career space.
Yeah.
So I started doing leadership coaching and I got hooked. And so I wanted to keep adding and growing my skill set. So I got training, certified, etc.
Great. So speaking about certifications, if someone wants to get into the space, okay, because I remember I was also at some point in my life trying to see, what kind of certifications are there in the market and how you can become a coach.
Yeah.
So if you had to give some advice around that, what would that be? How do you get started?
So sometimes people say, I'm a coach. And sometimes people ask actually for advice, how do I get into coaching? And I
Yeah.
think that what I always recommend to people is talk to someone who is a coach. Ask them if they have clients right now. Ask them if they have paying clients.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I say this assuming that if you want to go into this, you want to make this a profession, you want to make money doing this. If you just want to do this for fun, hey, that is a worthwhile pursuit as well. But if you want to make this a profession, talk to someone who's a coach, who has paid clients, and even more specifically, talk to someone who has a
Okay.
credential from an international body. And that means I'm actually the treasurer of the New York City chapter of the International Coaching Federation. I have a credential from ICF. Here's why credentials matter, specifically with the ICF. When you are working with a coach who has a credential from the ICF, they've passed through some hoops and hurdles. They're not just saying, oh, I'm a coach, but they have passed some standards around ethics. They have gone through training. They have received mentor coaching. Heck, they've even passed an exam. So they've gone through a set of defined processes so that they meet a certain standard. And I think the ethics are really important. So that's why I believe that having a certification is helpful. And I think it matters. And there are lots of wonderful coaching programs out there, but get the training and also get the credential.
Great. So the credentials that you were just talking about, is that the ICF ACC?
The
Are there any?
ICF, yes. There are 3 levels of the ICF. There's ACC, PCC, and MCC. Different levels of experience are required and slightly a few other different things. But yes.
I see. Understood. So also one thing I found quite interesting about your journey is that while you are based in the US, your clients are not just in US, right? Because although there might be physical borders, there are no digital borders, and that's the boon that we have because of the digital world which is so interconnected today. So you have clients in the APMEA region, and I wanted to know that how did you get clients across different geographies, and for someone who is maybe in India and is looking to establish their practice in a similar manner in different countries, how can they go about doing this?
Great questions. The way I've gone about building my practice is starting with my network. And I've been very lucky to work globally. I've worked in Europe. I've worked in global companies, and I'm very blessed to have an international network of contacts, colleagues who have started off in the U.S. and moved elsewhere. So my the main way that I get clients is through word of mouth and referrals. So I've built trust with my network, and my contacts are all over the world. The second thing that I do is I really like keeping in touch with people. So, I'm actually quite introverted, but I'm a people person. So I feel great when I have a chance to catch up with friends or former colleagues, usually in smaller environments, not so much big settings, but when I get to catch up with folks, that just fills my heart, it fills my soul, and those are really meaningful things for me. And for me, I just build my business connections based on these kind of authentic connections. You know, maybe that's, I don't know if that's a limiting factor. We'll see. But so I build my business I build my business based on authentic relationships through contacts, colleagues. So that's how I go about doing things. It has led to some contacts and coaching engagements in Europe, in India, in Thailand, and we'll see where it goes from there. Now,
Great. I mean, that's really some beautiful advice for all those
yeah,
people who want to follow your footsteps.
yeah.
I was also quite interested in the work that you're doing with Coca-Cola. So if you can talk a little bit about that, what kind of assignments do you have with them?
Yeah, so I actually just stepped down from serving on the board of the alumni board of the Coca-Cola Scholars Foundation. I served there for 5 years, and the foundation is in its 40th year at this point. So what they do is the foundation gives away scholarships, college scholarships to high school students, excuse me, in the United States. Now, I got this scholarship right after I finished high school, but I didn't really get involved with them until about 12 years ago. I was at a career crossroads myself. I was out of a job and looking for some inspiration. So I went back to Atlanta for a summit that they were
Okay.
organizing, and I just started to connect with some of my fellow alumni, with the staff. And I said, "Oh, this organization is not just about the scholarship. It's also about trying to connect the alumni over many years and inspiring the alumni to build a community to support each other." And community is one of my values. I love being a part of a community. I love supporting different communities. So I just started getting more and more involved with the foundation. And then it actually helped springboard my coaching. So one of the things that the Coca-Cola Scholars Foundation now offers
Yeah.
their first year students is coaching.
Oh,
And this coaching was the coaching training from the Coca-Cola Scholars Foundation was led and designed by the Center for Creative Leadership, which is an excellent coaching and leadership organization. And I was hooked, right? I mean, this was like great content, great, to be a great coach, you've got to do a little work on yourself
mhm.
first. And so we did a lot of that. And then I was coaching college students, but I was already coaching MBA students. So this training just helped me become a better coach. So the more I started doing for the foundation, the more I said, this is this is amazing, the kinds of opportunities that they provide for alumni. And then I
Yeah.
said, look, I want to give back. So I agreed to serve on the board and served on the development committee, on the engagement committee. One of the coolest things that we did was to initiate gratitude
Oh, wow.
among the high school seniors. So the weekend that they receive their that they receive the scholarship, they're also invited to Atlanta. They participate in this session called LDI, Leadership Development. I don't remember what the I stands for, Leadership Development Initiative.
Okay.
And they participate in a leadership program.
Yeah.
And as part of that, we said, well, why not invite the scholars to thank the donors and the alumni who helped make the scholarship possible? So we created this thing called a gratitude station. We printed out thank you cards, blank thank you cards, and invited students to write thank you notes. And it was a really just sweet way to connect with high school seniors, give them something to do, also encourage them to participate in the gratitude process.
Great. Gratitude. I always believe in the power of gratitude, and you have used it in this context. Amazing how you used it. Speaking about being a great coach, so you were just talking about some of the skills and some traits which are required. You were working on yourself, right? So I want to know, for somebody who wants to be successful in this space, what are some of the things that they need to work on? And for example, in executive coaching, one thing as per my understanding, that would be essential is that you need to be confident. You need to be able to hold a conversation because you're talking to people, who are already at a senior level. So you need to make a lot of sense. But other than that, what are some of the things that you need to acquire or maybe build through your
Yeah.
journey? Yeah.
Yeah, what a great question, because sometimes it does require some training. There are some natural skills that people sometimes have, and then there are also skills that can be further developed. So there are, let's say, softer skills and maybe some of the harder skills, but I cringe a little bit at the word soft skills, because I think you also know that being a good listener is not always easy for many people. Being kind and helpful is not always easy for a lot of people. So in terms of these, let's say, softer skills that I don't believe are soft and they're not squishy at all. They're quite concrete. So softer skills and harder skills. I would say being a good listener and being curious about others. Those are just fundamental qualities of a good coach. I was a camp counselor as a teenager. I was a freshman counselor, what they call FROCO, when I was at Yale. And I'm also genuinely curious about people's choices and their pathways. So what I mean by that is
Yeah.
I'm always that person who says, "Oh, how did you get into that job? Oh, what made you choose this career or that? Or what gets in the way of you being a more relaxed leader at work?" And sometimes people run away from me at dinner parties because they know I'm going to ask them questions about work. Then I have to remember, oh, okay, just because I'm curious about people's work doesn't mean everybody wants to talk about work all the time. So those are some of the soft skills. Some of the harder skills, I would say, or again, I need a better. I struggle with the soft and hard bit, but some of these other skills that I learned in consulting and pharma are strategy, data-driven decision making, um, becoming a trusted thought partner with your client. And the way that you do that is you challenge them, right? You can't just say yes to everything that they say, professionalism, etc. What I mean by you can't just say yes to everything is, it's a very common mistake that new coaches make is they don't want to offend their client. They are still building a relationship, so they want to be on their good side. And this is it's they may be afraid to just speak up or to
Yeah.
challenge their client. And in executive coaching, you can't be afraid to challenge your client. Imagine this executive is at the top of their organization. They're not getting a lot of honest feedback in many places. So you might be one of the only people who's really able to hold a mirror to that executive. So you've got to be willing, whether you've known them for 5 minutes or 5 years, to really say, I heard you say you're excited about this initiative, but what I noticed was that your face didn't seem that excited when you shared that. Can you tell me more about that? So you have to pick up on the incongruities and then
Yeah.
put it out there and then discuss them.
Interesting. The thing that you were talking about, loneliness at the top, there was a very interesting McKinsey study that I had read a couple of years back, and that talked about onlyness. And that basically examined a particular, it was about intersectionality and a particular segment of the society and how they are only people at the top, and hence they feel lonely and they feel they have no other representation. So it's quite interesting the work that you're doing in this space. So talking a little bit about transformations, could you share like one or two examples or case studies of some of the transformations that happened and the impact that you created in someone's life?
Yeah. Oh, this is a fun question. And, I think when you can make a difference in someone's life, what an amazing feeling, right?
Yeah.
And even better when they come back and tell you that what you did, what you said, how you supported someone made a big difference. So I can think of a couple of examples. Let's see. Well, one of my clients, he had his best year ever in terms of sales. And he shared with me that it was because he and I worked on two things. One, conflict resolution, and two, cross-functional collaboration. And I said, well, what was it about working on those two things that helped you have your best year ever in terms of sales? And he said, well, conflict resolution, wasn't always able to have direct conversations, have difficult conversations with my team members. But the more I practiced it and came from a place of talking about, what the lack of someone's
Yeah.
completing a deliverable had on me, the better I got at having these difficult conversations. And the better I got at having the difficult conversations, not being scared of the conflict, then the better our cross-functional collaboration got. And when those things were going well, it then freed up my time so that instead of focusing on internal matters, I could focus on growing the business. So it was this beautiful way of when the coaching can help you get better at the internal relationships, it frees up time to go grow the business.
Absolutely. That's such a wonderful case study. And can I ask, like, how much time it took for you to kind of reach at that level? Like, when you set a goal, is it like a matter of months or is it 1 year? Is that like a specific duration?
Well, that's a very good question. I typically work with clients for 4 to 6 months, and sometimes clients extend and we continue to work together after that duration. I think it can be hard to achieve really big goals in 6 months' time, but I like to challenge my clients, and usually my clients like to be challenged. So what we do as part of the goal setting is we'll establish big goals as part of the development plan. They receive feedback, 360-degree feedback. We create a development plan saying these are the big goals that I want to work on, that the client wants to work on for over not just the next 6 months, but over the next year. And we
Okay.
build in check-in points. So I'm there on a very regular basis through the end of the engagement, but I'll check back in with them. I want to make sure that they're making progress toward their
Yeah.
goals, 8 months in, 10 months in, 12 months in. And at times, I'll also check back in with their team. So this is one thing that where executive coaching is a little bit different from other kinds of coaching. executive coaching, you've got to think in a systems way,
I see.
meaning the executive is one person, but you can't just be thinking of that individual. They are part of a larger system, right? So they have a team. They may have an executive team or a leadership team. They may have a board that they're reporting to. They have peers, direct reports. So you've got to think in this whole system, how they operate. And so collecting the feedback at the beginning of an engagement from others in the system and using that as a mirror. And then toward the end of an engagement, checking back in with some of those people as part of the system. Hey, what are you noticing about the client? What are the behaviors that are the strengths? Are they still performing those behaviors? The behaviors that were identified as challenges, are they changing some of those behaviors? So that's a fun part where it's not just the client, but it's the whole system.
Amazing. I mean, you've explained it so beautifully. And also, the question, one of the questions that I had in my mind was the difference between executive coaching and the other forms of coaching. So thanks for touching upon that as well. Um,
Great.
so when you are at, in leadership positions at a certain level, my assumption is that there might be a lot of high pressure situations or a lot of stress. I don't know. It depends on people, I guess. But how do you coach leaders around stress management? One of the things that I have read about so much is mindfulness, which is a technique which is used to kind of get your mind into the present moment. So if you have like one or two techniques or things that you can share with the viewers today.
Oh, how fun. There are things that I do with my clients in an ongoing way, and then sometimes they're acute situations. And the disclaimer in this is that, if anyone is experiencing real so much stress and overwhelm that it causes them to lose sleep, then I recommend that they speak to a medical doctor or maybe speak to a therapist who is trained in such areas. My training is around mindfulness techniques, but I'm not a medical doctor and I'm not a psychotherapist. So in terms of, and there have been some very challenging situations. In the United States, there was a change of administration this year, and I used to work a lot with the United States federal government. With the change in the administration, I actually lost a lot of my business, and I was teaching, for example, federal leaders real time when some of the executive orders came down, and we had to just completely pivot
Okay.
from the actual agenda around maybe a theory around leading change or leading through uncertainty and say, wow, we have a real live case example right before us. How are we going to navigate this? So that was more of an acute situation. And so sometimes you have to throw out your agenda and just be very present in the moment to see what is happening with your client so that you can support them and help them lead through whatever challenges they're facing. Now, there are also ongoing challenges of stress, burnout, recognizing one's emotions. So one of the tools, so I am trained in mindfulness meditation. I completed the MMTCP, Mindfulness Meditation Teacher Certification Program. It's a 2-year, pretty intensive training, a global training with participants from everywhere, India, from Asia, from South America, Europe, North America, Australia, etc. And in this program, it's taught by Jack Cornfield and Tara Brock. We learn not only how to just to continue and deepen our own mindfulness practice, but we learn to teach others. And I bring it into my coaching in a couple of ways.
Okay.
So I have a framework that I work with. I call it EAR, EER, express, experiment, and recognize. So express one's emotions, experiment in expressing one's emotions and then recognize what you're thinking, feeling, and what emotions you are thinking and experiencing in the moment. So this ties back into emotional intelligence, which is one of the tools that I use as an executive coach. And, it's interesting, emotional intelligence is not fixed. You can continue to build and grow your emotional intelligence throughout your life. And one of the most if you're intentional and deliberate, you can actually grow your emotional intelligence. And one way to do that is through mindfulness. So what do I do? So when a client is going through a stressful situation, I have one client who texts me
Yeah.
when he gets a triggering email. And so what we've been working on is taking a pause, taking a break. So he'll get an email that sets him off. And usually, the reaction when we get an email that bothers us is fire off a quick response. Well, we've been working. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
We've been working when this client gets one of those triggering emails. I just asked him, what do you notice? What do you notice in your mind or your body when you get that email? When you just get triggered? And he said, there's this flash of heat behind my ears. And I said, huh. So he was able to tap into both his mind, his body, his feelings, and recognize there was this sensation. And that's a practice of mindfulness, recognizing what's going on. And then he pauses. So we've been working on the pause. And there are different ways. Once you are able to recognize what happens, maybe it is text a friend. Maybe it is the easiest thing to do in terms of mindfulness is when something or someone really sets you off,
Yeah.
take a breath. Just take one deep breath or another like
Yeah.
that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the bit that spoke about self-awareness, that's really very helpful, even in my situation. Like, sometimes I've had those instances where I had to be self-aware, and I took a pause, and I did not like respond immediately, and that has helped me a lot. um,
Yeah. I've got one other tactic that I'll just
yeah,
share because
sure.
sometimes people say, oh, take a breath. It's so obvious. It's so this, it's so that. If one feels self-conscious about taking a breath, another tactic that I like to do, even for myself, is if I'm feeling nervous, sometimes your manager says, hey, Neha, can we need to talk. Can you jump on a call in 5 minutes? You're like, what's going on? Am I getting fired? Is everything okay? We just have these reactions, right?
Yes.
In our body, our stomach falls to the floor. Our pit starts sweating. Maybe you start swallowing or your face gets red. So breathing can help. It can help. There's this lizard response in our brain that we just start reacting. We get the amygdala hijack, where this old primitive part of our brain takes over the thinking, rational part, the prefrontal cortex. And the way to bring us back is, one, it can be through the breath. Another, the other thing that I like to do, especially if I'm sitting down, I just press my fingers into my leg or my hand into my leg, and just enough that I kind of, oh, okay, I feel myself just kind of pressing or pinching a little bit, just to get myself back in my body so
Yeah.
that I'm not spinning in my head.
Right, right. Yeah, that's a wonderful technique. That's something that I have also used sometimes during
Yeah.
large meetings, like when there is a large group and you suddenly feel nervous, but you have to like come back. Um,
Yes.
there is a question that came to my mind while we were talking about these techniques. Dealing with layoffs, I don't know if you had such situations in life. If there is any advice that you could give to people, because layoff is such a high pressure situation, right? And there's so many emotions that suddenly come flooding, and you don't know what to do because everything is like so uncertain. Is there anything that people can do during this time to kind of calm themselves and focus?
Yeah. Look, first, it's really tough. It's as a career coach, I worked with a number of people, and I've also done career transition coaching, which is when people leave an organization. And I've worked with many individuals for whom it was not a voluntary choice to leave.
Yeah.
So part of the coaching is just talking to them, being present with them for whatever emotions arise. Because if you have to leave in an involuntary way, no one's happy about
Yeah.
that. And there can be all kinds of feelings associated with it. Maybe it's delight. Yes, I am free. I'm done with this place. Get me the heck out of here. Or maybe it's extreme in the other direction where feelings of shame or guilt or fear
Yeah.
come in because if you don't have a job, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to pay my bills? So there are all emotions that accompany a layoff are valid, and giving space for those is the first step. And working through your client, and that doesn't just conveniently end by session 2. Those feelings may persist
Yeah.
over a while, and just giving self space, time to process that. There was something that I used to say when I would work with MBA students, and when some of them may not get the full-time conversion offer from their summer internship.
Mhm.
And it was really disappointing. And I would say, before you go into the next phase of interviewing for the next job, you're going to have to get over whatever frustration, anger, any negative feelings that you have about not getting that previous job.
Yeah.
Because very often the interviewer can tell they haven't gotten over it.
Yeah.
So I encourage them. Maybe it means getting physical in your body. Go for a run, do some exercise, just jump up and down in your living room if that's the thing. Talk to somebody about it, journal if that's your thing. Um, Find an outlet that just allows you to fill up again. So we spent a lot of time on the emotional side of this. In addition, then, or maybe as you are processing these emotions, then building up taking stock of your skills.
Mhm.
What skills do I have? What am I looking for? I think the biggest thing that people don't do when they are looking for a new job is reaching out to their network, and reaching out to their network, not just, hey, do you have a job? Hey, do you know somebody who has a job? Sure, we do that because we're like, oh, shoot, I need a job. I got to pay my rent. But reaching out to people to ask for advice.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for a little while. I'm looking for something that's similar, but actually I want to take it in a slightly different direction. Can we just talk about that? Can we talk about what you do? Can we talk about your career journey? People love talking about their career journey, right? Your guests love talking about their career journey. How fun is that?
Yeah, I mean, such a wonderful piece of advice that you have shared. Because people who don't have a job would just approach the other person with one aim of seeking a job, but talking about other things as well. And another bit that I wanted to touch upon before we wrap up is about courage. I believe courage is very important. It's one of the most essential ingredients, whether you are in a corporate job or wherever you are in life. You need to have the courage to speak up for yourself. And many times, a lot of people struggle. They question themselves, or there are so many, voices in their head that don't let them kind of rise to the occasion. So I want to know from you: have there been any instances where you have helped coach leaders or people to kind of be courageous and speak up for themselves?
Yeah. That courage is so important. And it can show up in different ways. For some people, it's like, the lion, right? Like, roar, I am courageous. I'm going to jump off a bridge. I'm going to do something bold and brave and adventurous. And for some people, courage means having difficult conversations at work, right? So it shows up in different ways for different people. And I think it doesn't matter which one it is, because they both may feel like battling lions to whomever. So taking small steps to be able to practice, to be able to do something a little more courageous. I work with a coach, and he says, take moderate risks. Some people will take big risks. Some people will take small risks. I am maybe a little Goldilocks here, and I do like the idea of taking moderate risks. So I have one client who is in a pharmaceutical company and really values collaboration, cross-functional coordination, but has really struggled to speak up for herself and articulate, this is the job and the career that I want to go toward. And so we spent a lot of our coaching engagement saying, what would it feel like to speak up for yourself? To tell people, these are the 3 great things that I have accomplished over the past couple of years here in this organization. How can you say those 3 things and not feel like you're bragging? Which is what sometimes people think, oh, well, if I talk about those things, I'm going to sound like that person down the hall who's always bragging. So I worked with this individual just to help them rewrite their story. There may be a literal rewrite.
Yeah.
We even put it into LinkedIn. We put it into ChatGPT just to play around with it. Then the next step was, how can you practice sharing this story with people in your organization? So we developed a networking strategy, an internal networking strategy, where this client would talk to various people, some of whom she knew, some of whom she didn't know, or she said, oh, they definitely know what I do. But I said, are you sure? If you just lead with those 3 things, you remind them of what you've done. And that has actually led the client to being made aware of new job opportunities before they've actually been published. Now, I don't know. The client hasn't selected the new job opportunity yet, but just by talking about her accomplishments, building her internal network, she's been able to then stay on top of people's minds so that when a new job comes up, they're thinking about her.
Great. Yeah. And to wrap up, I have like one final question for you. Do you have like any piece of advice, to the new leaders who have kind of just stepped into leadership role? Is if you had to give like them 3 things that are like a must have, or skills or traits or whatever. I mean, it's on you. So what do you suggest?
I have 2 answers for this. There's the official answer, which is I talk about the difference between managers and leaders, and the skills of a manager and the skills of a leader. The skills of a manager, budgets, strategy, strategic plans, those are things that you can find templates for. They're very important. Not saying they're easy to do, but these are things that there are some standards out there that exist. The tools of a leader are vision, communication, and inspiration. You might say, well, that sounds a little vague, Anita. And they are intentionally vague because each leader has to come up with their unique approach to what vision means to them, to what communication means to them, to what inspiration means to them. So that's kind of the first answer.
Yeah.
At a much more tangible level, there are a couple of books and people, I think, who are really inspiring. I am really enjoying this podcast right now called Diary of a CEO by Stephen Bartlett. It's very popular on Spotify. I love reading works by Dory Clark. She is a coach, a speaker, MBA, a business school instructor, especially The Long Game by Dory Clark. And there's I think there's value to storytelling. Like, there was a gentleman on your podcast who's told that story of Everest, and like everyone's just on the edge of their seat, right? So the ability to tell a great story, to stretch out a story, to add in details so you really feel like you're right there.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine, Darren K. Roberts, is just a masterful storyteller. So I just enjoy watching his talks.
Wow, amazing. Thanks so much, Anita. I mean, I have learned so much from our conversation today. And thank you so much for sharing these incredible insights with everybody today. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you, Neha. Really fun. And congratulations on your podcast series.
Thank you so much for watching us till the end. I really hope that you found value in today's conversation. Please do like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear this. And please let us know in the comment section what you liked about today's podcast. I always believe that there are so many incredibly inspiring stories all around us, and that we do not have to look far for inspiration. Because as they say, that no one else sees the world the way you do, so no one else can tell the stories that you have. Thank you.